I'm so excited. We're going to be speaking now with Sally Hayden, the author of this fantastic book, My Fourth Time We Drowned, which has won multiple awards. Sally, tell us how this book came about.
Yeah, I've been reporting kind of as a general news reporter for the last 10 years. And the book came about because of a random Facebook message that I got in 2018 that came from somebody who had been locked up in a detention center in Libya, basically after trying to reach Europe. They were forced back and locked up and were basically appealing for help.
Could you paint a picture of what you discovered about Libya for those that have never read anything about the situation for refugees there?
I mean, we talk about Libya, but basically what my focus was on is the Central Mediterranean route, which is known by the UN as the deadliest migration route in the world. So you have a lot of people fleeing a lot of different situations, dictatorships, wars, and also like crushing poverty as well, who have all kind of come together and are trying to cross the sea and get to European territory. A lot of those people would have the right to live on European territory if they could claim it. So they need to claim asylum, but to claim it, you need to get on the territory first. And instead, what has been happening since 2017 is under EU policy, people are being intercepted at sea and forced back to Libya and locked up indefinitely often. And it's not like they're charged with anything. They're just being locked up and put in these horrific detention centers and, yeah, basically just abused there.
I mean, for me, I hadn't really understood the fact that state run detention centres in Libya were in the hands of people traffickers, people willing to torture and abuse people. I hadn't realised the extent of the amount of money being raised in ransom in order to help their relatives get free.
Yeah, I mean the fact that anyone is being bought and sold at all is like horrific. It's really shocking. And in the book, I mean, I don't think I was the first to use this terminology, but I call it like a 21st century slave trade, that people are basically being bought and sold, and the kind of loss of humanity within that is really horrible, and how people feel when they're trapped in that system, that they feel like they're being treated like cargo or like products. And yeah, it shocked me. I mean, to be honest, like everything in this book shocked me. That's why I spent so long reporting it, because I was motivated by my own shock that this is happening and that there's not an outcry. This situation, for me, it's something that's kind of emblematic of a much wider problem, which is how rich countries and how the West is treating people who need sanctuary. I think a lot of the time, like the kind of narrative in the press almost is that, we paint policies like, should we be acting or not acting? Like the failure is sometimes painted as a result of inaction, when actually I don't think that it was understood that there is like deliberate efforts being made by Western countries to keep people away from their territory and to stop them from seeking safety. And that's what my reporting has focused on.
You mentioned the UK and its policies. Your chapter on Rwanda, I think more people should understand what that would mean for the fact that Britain's going to be sending people to Rwanda. What do you think the average voter needs to know about the situation in Rwanda for refugees?
Yeah, there's a whole chapter on Rwanda in the book, and actually, my reporting, my testimony, and the book was referenced as well in the legal challenge against the Home Office, calling for that policy to be scrapped, which we know in the end was unsuccessful. I went there reporting. It's very hard as a journalist to work in Rwanda. There's not going to be proper oversight. It's a dictatorship. It's a police state. It's not a place where we can properly take stock of what are the impacts of sending people there or of those policies. And I know that from reporting there. I've been there multiple times. I was told when I was given accreditation that I was only given it because they believed I would write good things about them. And people can read the book for more information on this, but one of the things that I reported on was allegations of an attempted sexual assault against a refugee boy who was in a refugee camp in Rwanda. And in the aftermath, when there hadn't been a proper investigation into the allegations, and the boy remained like very vulnerable, the president's spokesperson came out and said that I write refugee porn, and they decried me in the state media and basically just tried to discredit my reporting. And actually, I had just been, initially, I had gone to the government and just said, I've heard these allegations. I didn't make it public until it became clear there wasn't going to be a proper investigation. And that really shows you, I mean, yeah, like Rwanda, from what, certainly its critics say, is using this to kind of make sure that its own human rights record is not properly analyzed and properly criticized. And I think that it's pretty clear from my reporting anyway that this is another example of a situation where an abusive system is being propped up and receiving large amounts of money, just because of the West kind of desire to stop people from migrating.
I just thought you were incredibly brave to be in some of these spaces, particularly as a freelancer. The chapter you wrote about your experiences on a rescue ship, you're there to do something good. And I don't know, if it was me, I'd have felt like I was being stabbed in the back. How do you keep going when you feel these kind of experiences, particularly as someone that doesn't have a large news agency behind you to kind of sort out all your legal situations?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a spoiler. I ended up under criminal investigation for a year, accused of being a people smuggler. And that obviously was not true. Like, it was eventually dropped because there obviously wasn't evidence, because it wasn't true. I could say why. I don't know anything about boats. I have no idea how to direct any boats. I don't advise anyone about going to the sea. I was very, very careful about that because you can never guarantee anything. Anyway, in terms of my work and the challenges that I faced, that was one of many. I had death threats, quite serious security warnings about my safety, and I became scared. And in one sense, it did stop me from doing as much reporting as I had been doing. That's very true, and I still feel guilty about that. And in another sense, it showed me how important this story is. People think that they know what's happening, but actually there are so many attempts being made to silence people, to make sure that this information isn't publicly available. And for me, when I started getting death threats, it really showed me that actually, no, you're revealing something that needs to be revealed.
There are a lot of people that will be watching this who have been working with refugees, maybe hosts that have been looking after people from Ukraine, maybe campaigners who are trying to keep going. And with the news, particularly in the UK, that we seem to be on a particular direction of travel when it comes to immigration and asylum, they might be feeling tired and discouraged. It sounds like you've been through a lot. What is it that keeps you motivated to keep speaking up about these things, particularly when it's so costly for you?
I mean, yeah, sorry, I said that all that just to explain the process of reporting, but I'm not saying like I'm personally great or anything like that. I mean, the really brave people are the people who were sending me information. They're the ones who are, in a very, very dangerous situation and are quite literally risking their lives to a much greater extent than me. And I would never want to say that I am in any way, better than them, or I'm not. I wrote the book because I wanted everyone just to know this information. I wanted it to be documented, and then I realized you have to do publicity to try to get people to read it, because it's like very hard to get people sometimes to engage with these topics. And so people kept asking me in events, do you feel hopeful generally? And I'd be like, no. But then actually I've been meeting so many people, and I'm sure there'll be so many at your event. We can have like big hope and small hope, and you can have big positivity and small positivity. And I've been meeting so many people who are even just like helping someone else in their neighborhood, or speaking to one particular group, or those types of actions are also making a huge difference. And I say this like people who have arrived from other countries as well are doing the same. They're getting involved in communities, helping others who have arrived, doing translation work for them. All of these things are also very meaningful. So, and yeah, it's always nice to share nice stories of different people's successes. And yeah, when people get a chance to restart their lives, or to get to a safe place and, get going again, that's brilliant.
Big kind of statistic that emerged last year was that the number of displaced people around the world tipped over 100 million for the first time, and that number seems unlikely to go down anytime soon. How do you see the future when it comes to refugees and asylum?
Yeah, I mean, that figure, 100 million, it includes internally displaced people, obviously, and it's always worth emphasizing, as you know as well, the vast majority of refugees, even who cross borders, are in developing countries and often in neighboring countries to their own country. So it's not like they're all, everyone's trying to get to the UK or anything like that. But I think in terms of the trends that are happening, it looks like the rich world is going to continue cementing its borders in increasingly abusive ways. And I guess we all need to be kind of at least monitoring that. For me, I'm a journalist. I don't want to make any predictions. I'm not like an analyst, and I'm not like an activist, and I see my job as reporting the facts. But yeah, like I don't know. Sometimes I'm despairing because I'm just feeling like there's not empathy in this world, and at other times I think, yeah, like there is empathy, but people might not actually be informed on certain policies or on what things mean. There's so many sound bites used now, and so many different, terms or language that's very dehumanizing, and I see my role as just making sure that people can understand what is actually meant by that, the human consequences of, what we're talking about. And yeah, hopefully in the future we're going to see a lot more empathy, but events like yours, I think, will help.
That's our hope. And honestly, your book is definitely helping with that empathy building. Why is it important that we listen to the stories of refugees and asylum seekers themselves?
Yeah, I think we hear this term a lot, voice of the voiceless, and often it's given to Western journalists or privileged journalists, and actually, like, nobody is voiceless, right? Like, people have voices, but they just need to be lifted up and given the chance to, to put everything together and to speak when they're willing to. Nobody obviously has to be forced to, but yeah, I think, yeah, we need to be hearing directly from people, not just on their own personal stories, by the way, but on their thoughts on policies. Like, what are the solutions to different problems? How can things be done better? Yeah, I'd love to see that.